Grand Admiral Vex of the Galactic Concordat sipped his nutrient cocktail with what passed for satisfaction among our species. The curved viewport of his command deck offered an unparalleled view of the conquered human homeworld, that troublesome blue-green marble they called Earth. I remember watching him that day, his six-eye stalk swiveling independently to monitor different sections of the bridge while his primary eyes remained fixed on the planet below. Scribe Zorn, he gurgled at me, the translation matrix rendering his mucus-filled speech into something I could understand. Are you recording this historic moment? The day we finally broke the human infestation? Yes, Grand Admiral, I replied, adjusting my data pad. Every glorious detail. Hey, if he had known what I would eventually write about the humans, he would have ejected me into space without a second thought. But at that moment I believed everything our leadership told us. Humans were dangerous, unpredictable. A cancer on the galaxy that needed to be contained. What absolute garbage. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Supreme Historical Archivist Zorn of the 7th Galactic Cluster, though back then I was merely Scribe Zorn, a junior member of the Propaganda Division. My job was simple: document our glorious victory over the humans and spin it into something that would make our citizens feel both superior and rightfully terrified of the primitive bipeds we had generously allowed to survive. The peace negotiations had concluded just 3 standard rotations earlier. I still remember the human delegates filing into our Grand Council chamber aboard the flagship Inevitable Dominance. What a pretentious name for a ship, by the way. Almost as pretentious as the Admiral who commanded it. The human representatives looked small. Not just physically, though they were indeed shorter than most spacefaring species, but defeated. Their shoulders, those strange horizontal appendages, slumped forward. Their faces, those flat arrangements of sensory organs, appeared drawn and tired. They had fought valiantly for nearly a decade, surprising everyone with their tenacity and ingenuity, but in the end, our superior numbers and technology had won out. Or so we thought. Zorn, come closer, Admiral Vex commanded, waving one of his manipulator limbs. I want you to see the face of submission. On the massive central display, the human delegation appeared, seated at a long table in what they called the United Nations headquarters. General Nara Patel, their chief military representative, was speaking to a crowd of reporters. Her face showed no emotion, another strange human trait, this ability to hide what they were feeling. Most species in the Concordat communicated emotions through scent, color changes, or bioluminescence. Humans could simply not show anything at all. It was disconcerting. The treaty terms are acceptable, General Patel was saying, her voice flat. Earth and all human colonies will disarm as agreed. All military vessels will be surrendered. Research into prohibited technologies will cease. A reporter shouted from the crowd, General, is it true we are not allowed to develop any new weapons technologies for the next 100 years? Patel's face twitched slightly. That is correct. The Concordat has determined that humanity's propensity for creating increasingly destructive weapons poses a threat to galactic stability. Another voice, what about the resource tributes? 30% of all Earth's mineral extraction? A fair price for peace, Patel replied mechanically. Admiral Vex made a gurgling sound that our species recognizes as laughter. Look at them squirm. Their warriors speak of peace while their civilians seethe with rage. Typical human duplicity. I nodded obediently, though even then something felt off. I had studied humans extensively during the war. Their history was filled with examples of accepting harsh terms only to rebuild and strike back later. But surely they wouldn't try that against the combined might of 17 advanced spacefaring civilizations? The days that followed were filled with victory celebrations across Concordat space. I attended 3 different ceremonies where Admiral Vex was awarded medals for his brilliant strategy in crushing the human resistance. In reality, he had simply thrown wave after wave of ships at their defenses until they ran out of ammunition, but no one mentions that in the official histories. 6 standard cycles passed before I saw my first human up close. The Concordat had established an observation post on Luna, Earth's barren satellite, to monitor compliance with the treaty. I was assigned there to document the disarmament process, which was proceeding with suspicious smoothness. That's where I met Tom Parker, human liaison to the Concordat observation team. He was not what I expected. "Hey there, you must be the new scribe," he said when we first met in the airlock connecting our respective sections of the base. "I'm Tom. I bring the reports from Earth and occasionally smuggle in real coffee, because that synthesized stuff you guys drink is an abomination against nature." I didn't know how to respond. Where was the defeated, resentful creature I had been told to expect? This human seemed almost cheerful. "I am Scribe Zorn," I replied stiffly. "I require no contraband substances." Tom laughed. Not a polite chuckle, but a full-throated sound that echoed in the confined space. "You'd give it 3 weeks in this place. You will be begging me for coffee, trust me." He was right, as it happens. Their coffee is surprisingly addictive. Over the following weeks, I observed Tom closely. He seemed genuinely friendly toward the Concordat personnel, learning everyone's names and dietary restrictions, but bringing small gifts from Earth that weren't technically prohibited by the treaty. Even Admiral Vex, who made an inspection visit, seemed charmed by the humans' deferential manner. "See how they adapt?" Vex told me privately after meeting Tom. "They know their place now. This is why we allowed them to survive. They can be useful when properly managed." I nodded again, the dutiful scribe. But something about Tom's easy demeanor bothered me. I had studied the psychological profiles of humans extensively. They did not surrender easily. They did not forgive quickly. Something wasn't adding up. One night, or what passed for night, in a lunar base with artificial lighting, I was reviewing disarmament reports in the common area when Tom entered. He was alone, which was unusual. The treaty specified that humans should always travel in pairs when off Earth, supposedly for their own safety. "Evening, Zorn," he said casually, helping himself to a cup of that wretched synthesized coffee. "Burning the midnight oil?" "I do not burn oil," I replied, confused by the idiom. He laughed again. "It means working late. Human expression." "Ah." I set down my datapad. "Where is your mandatory companion?" Tom shrugged. "Miko's got a cold. Nothing serious, just didn't want to make the trip up. The commanders know." A silence stretched between us, not entirely uncomfortable. Finally, curiosity got the better of me. "May I ask you something, Tom Parker?" "Shoot." At my confused look, he clarified, "Go ahead, ask away." "Why are you not angry? Your species lost a war. Your autonomy has been severely restricted. You must surrender resources, technology, freedom. Yet you seem content." Tom's face did something fascinating then. His expression remained pleasant, but something changed in his eyes, those strange, wet orbs humans use for vision. They seemed suddenly deeper, colder. "Who says I'm not angry, Zorn?" A chill ran through my dermal layers. For the first time, I glimpsed what might be hiding beneath Tom's friendly exterior. He must have noticed my discomfort because he immediately laughed and waved a hand dismissively. "I'm kidding. Look, what's the point of being angry? The war's over. We lost. Life goes on, but your history suggests—" "Our history is full of war and stupidity," Tom interrupted. "Maybe this is a chance to learn something new, to become better. Part of something bigger than ourselves." He gestured vaguely upward, presumably indicating the galaxy beyond. I wanted to believe him. It would make my job so much easier if humans truly had accepted their place in the Concordat hierarchy. The next morning, an alert went out. A human vessel had been detected leaving Earth's atmosphere without authorization. The Concordat patrol ships moved to intercept, as was standard procedure. But something went wrong. The human ship, a small transport, supposedly unarmed, somehow managed to disable 2 patrol cruisers before disappearing into the darkness between worlds. Commander Krez, the security chief, was furious. "This is a clear treaty violation. We should implement punishment protocols immediately." These punishment protocols involved destroying a random human settlement for each infraction. They had been used during the war with devastating effectiveness. But Admiral Vex, who had remained at the Luna base longer than planned, was strangely calm. "One ship is not an insurrection," he said. "Find out what happened to our cruisers." Perhaps it was a technical malfunction. Technical malfunction. Right. Because two advanced warships would simultaneously experience critical systems failures when approaching an unarmed human transport. Tom was conspicuously absent that day. When he finally appeared the following morning, he seemed unaware of the incident. Communications blackout on Earth, he explained when I asked where he'd been. Some kind of solar flare activity. Couldn't get clearance to come up. Solar flare activity. During what had been a completely normal solar period. Another convenient explanation. I began watching more closely after that. Small things started catching my attention. The way human disarmament reports always arrived exactly on schedule, never late, never with discrepancies. The way certain Earth regions were declared temporarily off-limits to Concordat observers due to environmental hazards or cultural celebrations. The way human representatives would agree to additional restrictions without protest, almost eagerly. They were hiding something. I knew it. But what? My chance to find out came 3 cycles later when a routine inspection of Luna base discovered a hidden passage connecting the human and Concordat sections. According to the treaty, all connections between areas should be monitored and secured. This one wasn't on any official blueprint. Commander Krez wanted to bring in additional security forces, but I suggested a different approach. "Let me investigate first," I proposed. "As a non-military observer, I might notice things your security personnel would miss." The real reason, of course, was that I wanted to see what was happening before trigger-happy security forces destroyed potential evidence. The hidden passage was cleverly disguised as a maintenance shaft. It led to a small room filled with communication equipment, definitely not authorized under the treaty. But more interestingly, the equipment was dark, powered down, unused, almost as if it had been planted there for us to find. I reported my discovery, but kept one detail to myself, a small data chip I found hidden beneath a console. It contained just 2 words in human English, "Watch closely." That night, unable to sleep, I accessed the observation drones that continuously monitored Earth's surface. Most showed normal activity rebuilding efforts in war-damaged cities, agricultural work, the mundane patterns of a species trying to recover from devastating conflict. But then I noticed something odd about the manufacturing reports. The number of civilian ships being produced seemed excessive for a species that had just lost access to its off-world colonies. Where were they all going? I cross-referenced with orbital monitoring data and found a disturbing pattern. The security satellites that tracked objects leaving Earth's atmosphere regularly experienced short maintenance periods during which their sensors were offline. These periods never lasted more than a few minutes, but they occurred with suspicious regularity. They were smuggling ships off planet, but where to? And how many had already escaped? 2 days later, Tom Parker appeared at my workstation with his usual friendly smile and an extra cup of real coffee, not the synthesized garbage. "Thought you might need this," he said, placing the steaming cup beside my data pad. "You look tired, Zorn. Not sleeping well?" I accepted the drink cautiously. "I have been preoccupied. Anything I can help with?" His expression was perfectly innocent. I considered my next words carefully. "I have been reviewing compliance reports. Something seems inconsistent." "Oh?" Tom sipped his coffee, seemingly unconcerned. "The number of decommissioned military vessels doesn't match the pre-war fleet numbers." Tom shrugged. "A lot of ships were destroyed during the fighting. The numbers won't match exactly. That's what the official explanation says. But according to my calculations, either your military was significantly larger than our intelligence suggested, or, Tom prompted when I didn't continue, or some vessels were never surrendered. Tom's face remained perfectly pleasant, but something flickered in his eyes, that same cold depth I had glimpsed before. "That would be a serious treaty violation," he said lightly. "The consequences would be unpleasant for Earth." "Indeed." I stared at him, waiting for some reaction, some tell. But humans are frustratingly good at concealing their thoughts when they want to. After a moment, Tom smiled again. "I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation. Paperwork errors happen, especially after a war. I will look into it when I go back down." He never did, of course, and 3 days later he was replaced by a different liaison, a stern woman named Jada Reed, who had none of Tom's friendliness. "Mr. Parker has been reassigned," she informed me curtly when I asked about him. "I will be handling liaison duties going forward." Something was definitely happening. I could feel it. The humans were planning something, but what? And how could they possibly hope to stand against the combined might of the Concordat? My answer came sooner than expected, and from a most unexpected source. Admiral Vex summoned me to his private chamber aboard the command ship, which had remained in lunar orbit. When I arrived, I found him staring at a holographic display showing hundreds of small dots moving across star charts. "Do you know what these are, Scribe Zorn?" he asked without turning. "No, Admiral." "These are unidentified vessels. Small, fast, using some kind of stealth technology we can't quite penetrate. They have been appearing at the edges of Concordat space for months now." My pulse quickened. "Human ships?" "That's the interesting part," Vex said, finally turning to face me. "When we manage to get close enough for visual confirmation, they are not using any recognizable human design. In fact, they don't match any known species in our database." "A new ally?" I suggested, though even I knew how unlikely that seemed. No spacefaring race would risk the Concordat's wrath by aiding humans. Perhaps. Vex didn't sound convinced. Or perhaps something else entirely. "The humans are inventive. During the war, they managed to surprise us numerous times with unexpected adaptations of existing technology." He gestured to a second holographic display, this one showing what appeared to be a captured image of one of the mystery vessels. It was sleek, almost predatory in design, with no visible propulsion system. "Our engineers can't figure out how it moves," Vex admitted. "It doesn't use any drive technology we recognize. But if humans have developed new technology, that's a clear treaty violation," I pointed out. "Why haven't we confronted them?" Vex's eye stalks twitched in what I recognized as discomfort. "Because we can't prove it's them," and he hesitated. "And because 3 Concordat battle groups that attempted to intercept these vessels have disappeared. Completely. No distress signals, no debris. Just gone." I felt suddenly cold. The Concordat had never lost entire battle groups. Not even during the worst of the war with humans. "What do you want me to do, Admiral?" "I keep watching the humans on Earth. Look for any sign, any hint of what they might be planning. If these ships are theirs," he didn't finish the thought. He didn't need to. I left the meeting deeply troubled. If humans had somehow developed technology capable of eliminating Concordat battle groups without a trace, why bother with the pretense of compliance? Why not simply attack openly? Unless they weren't ready yet. Unless what we were seeing was just the beginning of something much larger. The next week brought more mysterious ship sightings, this time closer to core Concordat worlds. Panic began spreading through the leadership ranks. Emergency meetings were called. Additional forces were dispatched to key strategic locations. And through it all, Earth remained perfectly, suspiciously calm, until the day everything changed. I was in the monitoring center when the alert came in. A massive energy surge had been detected in the North American region of Earth. Before anyone could react, similar surges appeared across the planet's surface, hundreds of them, then thousands, forming a strange geometric pattern visible from orbit. Commander Krez ordered immediate deployment of security forces, but it was already too late. The energy readings peaked simultaneously, and then Earth vanished, Not destroyed, there was no explosion, no debris field, nothing to suggest catastrophic destruction. The planet simply disappeared, replaced by empty space where a thriving world had been moments before. In the stunned silence that followed, my communication pad buzzed. A message from an unknown sender. I opened it with trembling appendages. It contained just 4 words, "Now watch us stand." Chaos erupted across the Concordat faster than a quantum particle cascade. One moment, Earth was there. The next, gone, vanished. A planet-sized hole in space where a defeated civilization had supposedly accepted their subjugation. The Luna base descended into pandemonium. Alarms blared as officers rushed between stations, shouting contradictory orders. Commander Krez's facial membranes had turned a sickly yellow-green, a sign of extreme distress in his species. "Find it." He shrieked at the sensor operators. A planet doesn't just disappear, but it had. Or rather, it had moved. Where to was anyone's guess. Admiral Vex arrived at the command center 17 minutes later, his normally immaculate uniform rumpled and misaligned. For the first time since I'd known him, the Grand Admiral appeared genuinely rattled. "Status report," he demanded, his voice lacking its usual pompous resonance. "No trace of Earth, sir," reported Senior Technician Quall. "No debris, no radiation signature, no displacement wave, nothing we recognize." "That's impossible," Vex insisted. "Check for dimensional anomalies. Perhaps they have shifted phase." The technicians exchanged nervous glances. Phase shifting an entire planet? The energy requirements would be astronomical. While the command staff argued about impossibilities, I quietly checked my communication pad again. The message remained, "Now watch us stand." Stand against what? The entire Concordat? With what army? Their military had been dismantled, their ships surrendered, their weapons destroyed. Or so we thought. 3 standard days after Earth's disappearance, the reports began flooding in from across Concordat space. Those mysterious vessels we'd been tracking? There were suddenly thousands of them, appearing near major military installations, trade hubs, and communication relays. They didn't attack. They simply watched, observed. Their presence alone was enough to send ripples of fear through our leadership. Then came the transmission. It broadcast simultaneously across all Concordat frequencies, bypassing encryption protocols that our best security experts had declared impenetrable. The face that appeared on screens throughout Concordat space was familiar to me: General Nara Patel, the human military representative who had accepted the peace terms with such apparent resignation. She wasn't resigned anymore. "Greetings from humanity," she began, her voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of steel. "As you have noticed, Earth is no longer where you left it. Neither are we the people you thought you conquered." Admiral Vex, watching from the command center, made a strangled sound somewhere between rage and disbelief. "For the past 3 years," Patel continued, "while you believed we were disarming, we were evolving, adapting, becoming something new. The terms of your peace treaty gave us exactly what we needed: time and underestimation." She smiled then, and there was nothing warm about it. "You are wondering where Earth went. The answer is simple: exactly where we wanted it. Our planet is now safely beyond your reach, as are our colonies. But we haven't abandoned this galaxy. It's far from it." The display split to show images of the mysterious ships now positioned throughout Concordat space. These vessels represent a fraction of our new fleet. They are automated, controlled by advanced AI systems based on technology we developed in secret during the war. Technology your sensors couldn't detect because you didn't know what to look for. Patel leaned closer to the camera, her expression hardening. "Here are our terms. The Concordat will immediately withdraw all forces from former human territories. All monitoring stations will be abandoned. All data collected on human civilization will be purged from your systems. In return, we will not destroy your major population centers." The command center erupted in outrage. "Absurd. How dare they? They have no leverage. Admiral Vex silenced them with a cutting gesture. "This is clearly a bluff," he declared. "They cannot possibly have the capability to threaten even one Concordat world, let alone all 17. As if in answer to his dismissal, Patel continued, "To demonstrate our sincerity, we will now neutralize military outpost Kedrax 9 in the Orion Spur. The facility is currently unmanned, so no lives will be lost. Consider this a courtesy." On a secondary display, the monitoring feed from Kedrax 9 showed a massive installation built into an asteroid, one of the Concordat's primary weapons development facilities. 3 of the mysterious human vessels approached it, maintaining formation. "They can't possibly," Vex began. He never finished the sentence. The outpost simply dissolved. Not an explosion, not destruction in the conventional sense. The entire structure, along with the asteroid it was built into, seemed to come apart at the molecular level, transforming into a glittering cloud of component particles. Silence fell across the command center. What we had just witnessed defied explanation according to known physics. Patel's expression hadn't changed. "You have 6 standard hours to begin evacuation of all Concordat forces from former human territories. We will know if you attempt deception. We will know if you attempt retaliation." The transmission ended, leaving behind static and a room full of stunned Concordat officials. "It's a trick," Commander Krez insisted, though his voice lacked conviction. "Some kind of holographic projection. Kedrax 9 is fine." But confirmation came minutes later from a supply vessel approaching the outpost. There was nothing left but scattered molecules. Admiral Vex retreated to his private chamber, summoning only his most trusted advisors. I was not among them, of course. I was just a scribe. But scribes have ways of hearing things they are not supposed to. "They couldn't have developed this technology in secret," argued strategic advisor Meln. "Our intelligence networks would have detected something." "Clearly they did not," Vex snapped. "The question now is what we do about it." "We must appear to comply while assembling our forces," suggested Security Director Volks. "Once we understand their capabilities, we can neutralize the threat." "And risk more installations ending up like Kedrax 9? Countered another voice. "These humans have somehow mastered matter conversion on a scale we thought theoretically impossible." The debate raged for hours while I listened from my hidden vantage point. In the end, they decided on a 2-pronged approach: publicly agree to the human terms while secretly preparing for full-scale war. They didn't know I was listening. They didn't know I had begun questioning everything about our supposed victory. And they certainly didn't know about the second message that had appeared on my communication pad. "Meet us at coordinates 227.89.443. Come alone." I shouldn't have gone. By all logic, it was almost certainly a trap. But curiosity has always been my greatest weakness, or perhaps my greatest strength. That night, I borrowed a small transport vessel from the Luna Base's auxiliary bay and programmed in the coordinates. The location turned out to be a small, uninhabited moon orbiting a gas giant in a nearby star system. As I approached, my sensors detected no ships, no structures, no signs of habitation at all. Just barren rock and dust. I was about to leave, convinced I'd been sent on a fool's errand, when my communication system activated by itself, and at the northern crater, instructed a voice I recognized immediately. "Tom Parker," I said. "I should have known. But good to hear your voice too, Zorn. Now please land before Concordat patrols decide to investigate an unauthorized shuttle in this sector." I complied, setting down in a vast impact crater. As the dust settled around my vessel, a section of the crater floor simply vanished, revealing a hangar bay beneath. Some kind of incredibly advanced holographic camouflage. With no other obvious option, I guided my shuttle into the opening, which sealed seamlessly above me once I was inside. The hangar was vast, far larger than should have been possible given the size of the moon, and filled with technology I didn't recognize which, given my extensive knowledge of Concordat advancements, was saying something. Tom Parker waited for me at the base of my shuttle's ramp, looking exactly as I remembered him, except for one detail: he now wore a uniform I didn't recognize, a midnight blue with silver accents and no insignia. "Welcome to Outpost Horizon," he said, extending his hand in the human greeting gesture. "One of many scattered throughout the galaxy." I didn't take his hand. "You lied to me." Tom's smile didn't falter. "I misdirected you. There's a difference. You made us believe humans had surrendered. And you believed it, despite everything your research told you about human nature." He shrugged. "That's not our fault." He had a point, which only irritated me further. "What happened to Earth?" I demanded. "Where did an entire planet go?" Tom gestured for me to follow him. "I will show you." He led me through corridors that seemed to bend in ways that defied normal spatial geometry. The few humans we passed nodded respectfully to Tom but regarded me with wary curiosity. "During the war," Tom explained as we walked, "a small research team made a breakthrough in quantum field manipulation. They discovered they could temporarily shift objects, or theoretically even planets, into a parallel dimensional state." "That's impossible," I objected automatically. "The energy requirements alone would be beyond anything the Concordat could generate," Tom finished for me. "Yes, that's why you never considered we might have solved that particular problem." We reached what appeared to be an observation deck. One wall was transparent, looking out over a massive chamber containing what I first thought was a miniature sun, a swirling, pulsating sphere of pure energy contained within a complex field generator. "This is a quantum fold reactor," Tom said proudly. "It harvests energy directly from the quantum foam underlying our reality. Limitless power with virtually no resource cost." I stared at the impossible technology before me. If humans had developed this during the war, why didn't you use this against us? I asked. "You could have won." Tom's expression darkened. "We nearly did. But there was a faction among our leadership that feared what might happen if humanity had access to such power too quickly. They believed we needed time to mature as a species before wielding technology that could reshape reality itself." "So you pretended to lose the war?" "We lost the war," Tom corrected. "Legitimately. But we preserved our most important research and our brightest minds. The peace treaty, harsh as it was, gave us exactly what we needed: a reason to unite as never before, and the pressure of existential threat to accelerate our development. All while the Concordat watched your every move." Tom grinned. "You watched exactly what we wanted you to see. Shell companies, dummy facilities, carefully managed discoveries that kept your analysts focused on conventional technology." He led me to another section of the facility, a vast chamber dominated by a holographic display showing what appeared to be a star map, but unlike any I had seen before. It showed not just our galaxy but several others, connected by glowing lines. "Earth hasn't just moved location," Tom explained. "It's shifted partially out of phase with normal space-time. Not quite in our dimension, not quite in another. Untouchable by conventional weapons or sensors. And these ships you have been deploying throughout Concordat space? Automated vessels controlled by quantum-entangled AI systems. They don't need crews because they are extensions of a central consciousness." I felt dizzy trying to comprehend the implications. "This is why those battle groups disappeared without a trace." Tom nodded solemnly. "We didn't want to destroy them. But we couldn't allow them to report what they'd discovered either." "And now? What happens now? Your General Patel has practically declared war on the Concordat." "Not war," Tom corrected. "Independence. There's a difference." Before I could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the facility. Tom's expression turned grim as he checked a device on his wrist. "It seems your Admiral Vex isn't as patient as we'd hoped," he said. "The Concordat has just launched simultaneous attacks on all detected human outposts." "That's insane," I protested. "After what you did to Kedrax 9, fear makes people do stupid things," Tom replied, already moving toward what I assumed was the command center. "Even six-eyed admirals with oversized egos." I followed, not knowing what else to do. The command center was a hive of activity, humans working calmly but urgently at stations, displaying information faster than I could process it. "Status report," Tom called out as we entered. "Concordat forces have engaged automated defenses at 14 outposts," replied a stern-faced woman I recognized as Jada Reed, my former liaison. "No breaches. Quantum displacement drives are charging at all locations." "Casualties?" Tom asked. "None on our side. Concordat forces are experiencing significant losses. Their weapons are ineffective against phase-shifted structures." Tom frowned. "That wasn't the plan. Activate Protocol Mercy." Jada looked surprised. "Sir? They attacked us." "They attacked empty outposts controlled by AI systems," Tom corrected. "No human lives were at risk. I won't have unnecessary deaths on my conscience." "Protocol Mercy, Commander Reed." She hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Yes, sir?" "Implementing Protocol Mercy." On the main display, I watched as the human vessels surrounding Concordat attack ships suddenly changed tactics. Instead of destroying the aggressors, they were capturing them, somehow generating fields that disabled the ship's systems without harming their crews. "What are you doing?" I asked Tom. "Showing restraint," he replied simply. "Something your Concordat never bothered to try with us." Within hours, the brief, one-sided conflict was over. 17 Concordat battle groups had been neutralized without a single ship destroyed. Thousands of Concordat military personnel were now prisoners, though from what I could see on the monitors, they were being treated with remarkable care. "What happens to them?" I asked, gesturing to the captured crews. "They will be returned to Concordat space unharmed," Tom said, "along with records of what happened. Your leaders need to understand that we could have destroyed them, but chose not to." A new transmission appeared on the main screen. Admiral Vex, his eye stalks rigid with barely controlled fury. "This outrage will not stand," he declared without preamble. "The Concordat demands the immediate return of our forces and your complete surrender." Tom sighed heavily before responding. "Admiral, you just lost 17 battle groups without inflicting a single casualty on us. Your weapons can't touch our technology. Your sensors can't find our homeworld. Exactly what leverage do you think you have in this situation?" Vex's eye stalks twitched spasmodically. "The combined might of the Concordat is impressive, but irrelevant," Tom interrupted. "We don't want war, Admiral. We never did. We just want to be left alone to determine our own future." "Impossible. The human capacity for violence makes your species an existential threat to galactic stability." Tom's expression hardened. "Let me be absolutely clear, Admiral. We could have annihilated your attack forces today. We chose not to. We could target your homeworlds right now. We choose not to. What does that tell you about our capacity for violence versus our capacity for restraint?" The Admiral had no immediate response to that. "Your personnel will be returned within 12 hours, Tom continued, "along with our terms. They are non-negotiable but also remarkably reasonable, considering the circumstances. I suggest you advise the Concordat Council to accept them." He ended the transmission before Vex could sputter another protest. "Will they accept?" I asked quietly. Tom shrugged. "Eventually. Once the reality of the situation sinks in. The Concordat has always been pragmatic, if nothing else." "And what happens to me?" I asked, suddenly aware of my precarious position. "I'm hardly a valuable hostage." "You are not a hostage at all," Tom replied, surprising me. "You are here because you started asking the right questions. Because you saw past the deception when others didn't. Because you were willing to risk everything to find the truth." He handed me a small data device. "This contains the complete, unaltered history of human development during and after the war. The true story, not the propaganda you were tasked with writing." I stared at the device in my hand. "Why give this to me?" "Because someone needs to tell our story to the galaxy. Not as conquerors or victims, but as we truly are flawed, complex, capable of both tremendous violence and extraordinary compassion. You want me to be your public relations agent? I couldn't keep the incredulity from my voice. Tom laughed, that same genuine laugh I'd first heard in the Luna Base airlock, a lifetime ago. I want you to be a historian, Zorn, an honest one. The galaxy deserves to know what really happened. And so I did. The document you are reading now is the result of nearly a standard decade of research, interviews, and analysis. It is, to the best of my ability, the true story of how humanity faked its own surrender, developed technology beyond anything the Concordat had imagined possible, and then when forced to demonstrate their power chose mercy over vengeance. The Treaty of New Terra, signed 3 cycles after the events described above, established humanity as an independent entity separate from Concordat control. Earth eventually returned to normal space, though protected by defenses that make any future attack unthinkable. Human technology has advanced even further since then, though they share it selectively and always with extensive ethical guidelines attached. Admiral Vex was quietly removed from his position shortly after the failed attack on human outposts. I heard he retired to a small agricultural world at the edge of Concordat space, where he raises domestic herd animals and refuses all interview requests. As for Tom Parker, or Fleet Admiral Thomas Parker, to use his actual title, he now serves as humanity's primary diplomatic representative to the galaxy at large. We still meet occasionally, usually over cups of that addictive coffee beverage. He tells me humanity is planning its first expeditions beyond our galaxy within the next decade. The Concordat scientists insist this is impossible. Personally, I have learned not to bet against humans when they set their minds to something. They stand alone now, not because they must, but because they choose to. Independent, powerful beyond comprehension, and yet remarkably still guided by the better angels of their nature. The species we forced to kneel has risen, and the galaxy holds its breath to see what they will do next.